Right. All right. Welcome, everyone. Michael Resnick here with Accedian. We are going to be covering a topic that is around the idea of next generation behavior-based intrusion detection, or what some may be familiar with as network traffic analysis or behavior-based traffic analysis. And looking forward to walking through this with you, along with my colleague, Andre Yesef. So I'll kind of kick off with some ideas off the beginning, and then Andre is going to kind of jump in and take over from there. So one of the things, just kind of taking a look at, today's security challenges. Everybody knows, what everybody's, facing in the market. We're all, many of us even now are living through the latest security breach that just took place on the pipeline and gas lines, and lack of gasoline all throughout a number of states in the Southeast. One of the things that I think it's important to note is that cyber security is important to everyone, right? Adversaries, they don't discriminate based on the size of your organization. We're all familiar with attacks on major multinationals. They make the headlines. We hear about it in the news. But it's really important to note that there are constant assaults and attacks, just unrelenting, even on the small businesses, medium-sized businesses, mid-market. There's just really no discrimination. And one of the challenges that these small mid-market accounts, if you're in that market sector, most of the time the teams are managing the cybersecurity themselves. Very few have even a dedicated staff member to manage it, or maybe just one IT person. And, oftentimes there's no one responsible at all. And that's a real challenge, because you're facing, very sophisticated threat actors and adversaries. Traditional intrusion detection that's considered more signature-based really has become impotent in today's world of APTs. Most of the time, the rules and the signatures are triggering false positives, which basically means that in 80% of the time, there's not even a certainty as to whether or not it's a true threat. Again, most of the time, greater than 80% of the time, the strands of a malware are used only one time. So the last time you saw a signature it's not going to be the same this time. And what's really challenging is that dwell time is generally greater than 6 months. You're going to see numbers anywhere from 190 to 210 days as the average dwell time of an adversary, which means they're in there, they're slow, they're exfiltrating data for a long period of time, meaning that when they finally call, you get the lockdown, perhaps they have a lot of information, and it's very threatening to business continuity. Again, the challenge with APTs, advanced persistent threats, they're stealth. They like to break in, exfiltrate, and slip out unnoticed. They don't make a lot of noise. Again, a lot of sophistication and operational capabilities. They use custom code. They have a lot of advantages, especially over smaller organizations. It's very challenging to be able to keep up with the types of threats of these threat actors delivering APTs. And a lot of times they're also using publicly known vulnerabilities. And they're just a lot of times very difficult to find, right? They avoid auditable events and error messages, and because they come in low and slow, they avoid traffic congestion and service interruption. Another challenge besides the fact that these adversaries are leveraging APT is that our own infrastructure environments are digitally transforming, meaning that we're now leveraging infrastructure from a number of different locations. Traditionally, it may have been kind of a centralized infrastructure, and all the applications were being delivered kind of from almost like a hub and spoke type of scenario from a central location. Now infrastructure is distributed. You have multi-cloud architectures many times, a combination of hybrid cloud and multi-cloud with on-prem, maybe data centers, leveraging multiple public cloud providers, infrastructure as a service providers. And it really creates a real visibility challenge for one thing, because there's a lot of network dependency, and you have to be able to put eyeballs everywhere. And now with edge emerging for high performance applications and so forth, it just really creates a very distributed and very network dependent infrastructure. And as we transition into this, kind of distributed and network dependent infrastructure, there's a couple of things that happen. One is the application delivery. It creates a lot of blind spots for application delivery. The other, and more important to this time here, is a bunch of new attack surface vulnerabilities. So every time you introduce a new network dependent infrastructure, or you start to think about IoT and IoT devices, communicating back into your networks, all of these are, create, attack surface expansion, perimeter expansion, as well as new attack surface and attack vectors, I should say. In terms of, the types of different security tools, I think everybody is probably familiar with, kind of the three major categories, right? First, there's perimeter protection, which is if you're kind of looking, if you wanted to illustrate what perimeter protection is, this is kind of like in a bank, it's the police officer outside the doors trying to make sure nobody, no bank robber is going to get in. That's perimeter. Then you have, what I refer to, what everybody knows as endpoint protection. So we know that there's a lot of endpoint security, tools out there in the market, and that's really about putting agents on endpoints, whether they're servers or laptops. In this illustration, it's like placing, sensors on every, ATM machine and all the computers, and put them on everybody's wallets, just to see if anybody, is actually trying to break into those locations. And then lastly is the network itself. So network-based security is the third, major category of security protection. And that is, kind of illustrated here as like having an MRI camera that can see, basically all the movement. So if somebody gets by the perimeter and they're inside kind of doing reconnaissance and snooping around, that's something that, the network can see, right? Every attack has to hit the network. And that's really what next generation intrusion detection is really about. It's really about monitoring the network, but it's doing some things that are different than traditional signature-based. So signature-based traditionally looked at IP addresses, it looked at DNS domains and so forth. Next gen really looks all the way up the stack, and it starts to look at different types of protocols like HTTP, like DNS, TLS, SSL, SMB, SQL, FTP. We're looking at these upper layer protocols now, not just the layer, call it 2, 3, and maybe 4, but really all the way up to layer 7. And the reason that's important is because, the same protocols that are used to deliver an application are the ones that, an adversary is going to hijack in order to conduct and execute an exploit in an environment to breach in a cyber attack. So first is going all the way to layer 7. The second is adding behavior-based analytics and behavior, machine learning models and statistical models in addition to the traditional signature. You don't abandon signature. There's still a lot of unsophisticated actors out there that will use, malicious IP, and we want to leverage those threat feeds, but we want to add to it. We want to harden what was traditionally signature with, looking at what is normal behavior and then understanding when we see an anomaly to that. And we do that not, again, just at layer 2 and 3. We look at, we do that all the way up to layer 7. So we can do that with DNS. We can do that with HTTP. So we can look at these different protocols, look at the different transactions, and identify when we see a malicious or suspicious anomaly. And then we do all this in real time as well, right? So that's kind of, really kind of the three pillars of next gen intrusion detection, or network traffic analysis, or even now it's being referred to as network detection and response. Why network traffic for threat detection? Again, as I mentioned, every attack leaves a footprint on the wire. Endpoint and perimeter both have their challenges and limitations. With endpoint, you can't always place an agent on every endpoint. With IoT, for example, that can become an attack vector. Many of the devices can't support it. Their OS can't support an agent. BYOD, industrial control systems, operational technology. A lot of times the operating systems can't support an agent. Agents have to be, basically perfectly managed in order to have no vulnerabilities. And so, a lot of times it's very difficult to, deploy them everywhere, configure them properly, manage them. And so network really provides a backstop to the endpoint. Same with perimeter, right? I mean, inside attacks, if anybody gets phished or vished, now an attacker comes right on through a firewall, and again, can laterally move in your environment, and the perimeter is not going to pick that up. And so, one of the things I'd say is that it's really important when you're considering a network-based cybersecurity defense platform like an NDR, is really to make sure you can instrument every type of environment, right? Whether it's not only just your on-prem and your cloud locations, which oftentimes it's very even difficult to instrument cloud properly, but remote sites, being able to monitor for IoT and even encrypted traffic, SaaS applications, third-party risk locations. A lot of times, we talk to financial institutions and they have partners that are connecting into their networks. They're more concerned about their third-party risk than their own networks a lot of times. And of course, the internet, which is public and wide open for attacks. So, this is something that's very important. So with that, I'm going to transition over to Andre, and he'll pick up the conversation there. So Andre, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Thank you, Michael. Let me share my screen. Once again, thanks everybody for joining us today. So I want to shift the gears a little bit and talk about persistence threats, advanced persistence threats, and behavior-based intrusion detection from another standpoint, from more practical standpoint. And today I'm going to show a short demo that will show you how easy it is for attackers to avoid conventional detection tools using such an old protocol as DNS to exfiltrate actually data. It's the latest stage of every attack when attackers start stealing data. So without further ado, let's dive into that. First of all, why we're talking about DNS at all in the light of APTs and all that stuff. So I really like, first of all, I really like DNS because for attackers, it's a huge surface that, first of all, everywhere. DNS protocol is everywhere. You can turn it off. You can really filter it out on the firewall because the whole network will be disabled. Second of all, it's one of the oldest protocol out there that was designed back in 80s and with absolute zero security in mind. Back in time, engineers, developers, software developers were thinking more about how to build internet rather than secure internet. And at the end, it's highly reliable and scalable. DNS infrastructure sustained trillions and trillions of queries every day, and it's still out there. It doesn't, it works. It just works. So a quick reminder about how DNS works, a little bit of theory so we can better understand what I'm talking about later on. every time we enter website address in our browser, the query goes, computer doesn't really understand words that good as humans do. It does understand numbers much better. So a computer tries to, convert the name of your website that you're looking for into the address. So it sends a query to your default DNS server, whatever is used in your local network. And then here I show you, kind of worst case scenario when the website has never been seen before, and the whole DNS infrastructure need to just go through whole hierarchy, go to root DNS server, and root DNS server will redirect your request to TLD, top level domain DNS server, that will tell you which DNS server can reply to COM, et cetera, et cetera. So at the end of the day, you're going to get IP address back in your browser, and your browser will serve you requested resource. So now let's look at this same infrastructure from attacker perspective. When attacker plans their attack, they put in a lot of effort into writing code, testing code, just like any other company that had to write in code that is not malicious. And they really try to avoid the situation when something goes wrong and months of preparation will be just wasted. It means time and money. Believe it or not, they also spend a lot of money to run their attack campaign. So imagine you as an attacker, as a hacker, wrote state-of-the-art piece of malware. You have infected hundreds or maybe even hundreds of thousands of computers out there, and now you need to create a sustainable communication channel between all the infected machines and your command and control server. You basically have two options to do that. Either use IP address or domain name of your command and control server. Both are not very reliable because as soon as security companies will detect your CNC server, either domain or IP address, they will blacklist that. That blacklist will be propagated pretty fast, and within days, or well, in good case scenario for you, within weeks, you will lose connection to all your bots out there. So what you can do, you actually can leverage domain generation algorithm, or also known as DG. It's a simple algorithm that based on time, and it does nothing but generate random string at the particular time. So basically, if you put that algorithm on both sides, on your CNC server and your piece of malware, it means that every time you need to switch server because your server was detected and you see that you're losing connection to your infected computers, all you need to do is to call that algorithm, and it'll generate you unique string on both sides, on malware side and on server side. All the server needs to do is go to legitimate domain registration service such as GoDaddy or Google Domains, and register that domain. And at the same time, your malware, when it generates the same string, it needs to, instead of previous domain name, it needs to start query new domain name, and communication channel is restored. It's really easy to do. It doesn't attract any attention from security companies or whatsoever. And, it's hard to create a signature-based or rule-based detection that would do that. Like instead of, like every time you put new domain that you detected, new weird looking domain you detected in your threat feed, attacker will generate new one and will continue to communicate with infected machines. So that's a problem. So next thing, what attacker can do in DNS, they can exfiltrate data using DNS. It's also not that hard to do, and I'm going to show you how. So imagine you did the first part. You register some weird looking domain name, generated domain name. You next step of what you need to do, you need to just tell that this domain name is pointing to your CNC IP address. Literally takes 2 rows of configuration on every domain management website. After that, no matter how, no matter what you're going to put in the prefix or in the subdomain of this particular domain name, every query that you will issue to that domain name will end up on your CNC server, and I'm going to show you that in a minute. For now, I just want to explain that on this slide. So imagine you have infected point of sale terminal, for instance, and you want to exfiltrate a file that contains all of the credit card that were swiped this day there with all the details. All you need to do, if your piece of malware support, DNS tunneling, DNS exfiltration, and the whole infrastructure up and running, all you need to do, you grab this file, you cut this file in pieces, in small enough pieces that any DNS server would allow to pass through. You add those pieces to your domain name that you control on the CNC side, on your command and control server side, and you start issuing these queries to any local DNS server. And as we just reviewed a minute before, local DNS server won't see anything unusual. There's just just a query to some domain name that it hasn't seen before. It'll pass it won't know the address. It won't be cached here on local DNS server because subdomain constantly changing. So it'll pass that forward and ask World Wide Web DNS infrastructure about where this domain is, and your firewall will pass that traffic through just because it port 53, and never firewalls are blocking that port. And DNS infrastructure eventually will redirect this query to your CNC server. All you need to do on the side of DNS, on your side, you need to just cut off this domain name, save the chunk of this file, and wait till your malware signal you about the end of transmission. And that's it. The file that was on infected point of sale appeared on attacker DNS server. So let's see how it works in real life. So now here I have two machines, my Raspberry Pi that is sitting somewhere remotely, and my Kali Linux that I'm using as a command and control server, and where I'm running my DNS server. We can look at that. Yeah, we're listening on port 53. So here I'm gonna start my software that will create a tunnel between my Raspberry Pi and my CNC server. I'll enter password of my server. Since it's not just usual DNS server, I want to make sure that it's not being targeted by scanners and web crawlers and such, or my hacker colleagues won't try to hack that server. So I protected it with a password. So here I said that I want to connect to already familiar domain name. I want to use Google DNS service, and I want to use now query types, DNS query types. That these query types will allow me to transfer more data at one query to my DNS server or my command and control server, which will speed up the process of data exfiltration. So let's go ahead and try TCP dump this traffic, and at the end of the demo, we'll just have a look at the traffic and how it looks. So now we're dumping that in a PCAP. And here, you can think, I just want to show you that what happened here. We created virtual interface, call it DNS0, that actually created this tunnel that we're talking about here. So server tunnel IP is 10.1.1.1. So we know all the credentials on our server. We're sitting on this, let's think of it as a point of sale terminal. Let's see what's here. Oh, there's an HT password file. Let's try to exfiltrate this guy. We're gonna open FTP connection to our CNC server. Yeah, through DNS. Let's see, Prime. Enter password. FTP successfully connected. Here's Brian user home directory, and I'll show you that there is nothing there. And now we're gonna put HT password in on our site. We're getting actually 4.5 megabit per second speed through DNS. That's pretty good. So here we go. HTTP password file is here. You can look at it and just make sure, yep, it's absolutely here. Let's check if it's really same file. Yeah, you can see that this is the same file. So, and actually connection can work both ways. So when attacker create this this tunnel, I can reach every box that was infected with my malware. Let's stop this TCP dump. And yeah, just the same way we can move any file on the other side. So yeah, let's have a look at the traffic now. I'm gonna get off from my laptop. Can I SCP that file that we just captured? Hopefully, it suspiciously have very few packets, but let's see. Yeah, get the file here. Let's open it. Missing. Yeah, sorry for that. I believe it's demo effect. Luckily, I have some previously generated files that look exactly the same. So yeah, so this is how your traffic gonna look like. See this very clunky, long queries, DNS queries, all this information is basically bits of file, or rather IP protocol that was tunneled through DNS. And in response, my server puts data in the response section of the DNS queries. So this is how it works. This is how easy it is, how easy to do this, how easy exfiltrate files. You saw how fast it is. 4.5 megabits per second is pretty fast. Also, attacker can actually control the speed and rate of exfiltration just to not kind of trigger some detections. But in my experience working in security, I see that not many tools are paying enough attention to DNS protocol and has any means of detecting any malicious activity in DNS protocols. So what we can do with that, and how we can detect malicious activity in such kind of parts of your network as DNS. First of all, Michael was talking about that a lot. Behavior analytics, as I try to show you that rules won't help you a lot, because as soon as you detect that there is something malicious going on this weird looking domain name, and attacker will see that they lost connection to their infected machines, they will regenerate that domain name and on both sides, and malware will start trying to connect to another one. So basically, rule detection won't help you. So behavior-based analytics is one of those silver bullets that can help you to detect that malicious behavior. So if you look at this picture, you can see, if you constantly monitoring your DNS network traffic, the baseline day after day in every kind of DNS query type, like what the amount of data you generate, what users, what types of that data is, et cetera, et cetera. So every time you see an outlier, you can spot that outlier and start investigating, like what exactly happened, why we have a spike of data here, what's going on, and it can alert you on the bad behavior, malicious behavior. The other approach that we're taking is we're working with detecting every domain that we see in terms of, does it look like a human readable, human created domain, or it's basically a random string of characters that was generated by machine. And just by the fact that you see these domains in your network, can tell you a lot that there's something going on in your network, and you need to pay attention to some particular endpoints. In our experience, neural networks work very well, and we managed to achieve almost 99% true positive rate compared to other approaches. There are a bunch of different approaches. There's n-gram analytics based on random forest, but as I said, LSTM is showed that it's much easier to train, and it works much faster than any other machine learning algorithm, and deliver very high quality results. This is just two short kind of approaches that can help you dramatically reduce the number of attacks, or detect problems in network and in DNS in particular. Or if all that sounds too complicated, ask us for help. So we have 13 minutes for questions. If anyone has any questions, they're very welcome to ask them now. Let me stop sharing so I can see question. So I don't see a question. So how often have you seen DNS transfer in the wild? Pretty often. So one of the most not popular, well-known attack was a target attack, when data from target was exfiltrated using DNS tunnel. Also, in many cases, DNS tunnel is used as a reverse tunnel for communication purposes between malware and command and control server in such PowerShell frameworks as Empire or CobbleStrike. It's as a piece of plugin kind of that you can use to set up communication between your malware or bots, as they call them, and the server. Any other questions? Okay, well, there's a question. I'm unclear as to the role of the Raspberry Pi. Well, so Raspberry Pi was just an imitation of infected client. Think of it as infected point of sales terminal. That I just trying to make a case when you're exfiltrating data from infected machine to your server through DNS. Hope that, yeah, okay, thank you. Any other protocol? Can you please specify any other protocols used for communication channel or reverse tunnel, as they called? So if that was the question, then yes, HTTP and HTTPS are one of the most used protocols to create reverse communication channels. So how it works, attacker would spin up HTTP server, and the malware starts constantly querying HTTP server, and this way they manage to deliver data between malware and server. The demo was great. This is the best session I have attended at this conference. Thank you very much. Thank you. Can this be done if a place utilize DOH? So I believe DNS over HTTPS. Yes, it can be done, and it's actually make the life of security researchers harder to detect this problem. However, we had very good results utilizing the same approach, monitoring HTTPS protocol. And there are certain things that we can use to, first of all, detect that there is a DNS going through HTTPS. And second of all the spikes that are out of ordinary, we can easily detect and check if there's something going on. Okay, in order to monitor it, then wouldn't you need to implement SSL? Well, yes and no. So if you really want to be 100% sure there's DNS going on over HTTPS, yes. And well, man in the middle is a little bit outdated technology. There are newer technologies or techniques, I would say, not technologies. There's nothing new in that technology, but technique to harvest session keys in HTTPS protocol. However, for this purpose, you need an agent on the endpoint that will intercept a session key for HTTPS session, and our sensor will be able to decrypt HTTPS session, and then, of course, we will see everything. We'll be 100% sure. Yes, right. You either need session key or private key. Again, if you in control of the service and you have access to private key, that makes everyone's life easier. You can easily decrypt that traffic, but in most cases you don't. So yeah, you need an agent that would intercept session keys in the memory on the endpoint, and will use that to decrypt the session after that traffic captured. Very good questions. Thank you very much for that. Any other questions? We have 6 more minutes. Okay, I'll go 1, 2, 3. No questions. Thank you very much. Thanks for attending. Thanks for listening. Well, have a good day.